Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are breaking down a concept that is absolutely central to economics and really to any business strategy: elasticity. You can think of it as this hidden force that kind of dictates whether a price change will totally sink your profits or send them through the roof. And trust me, once you get it, you're going to start seeing it everywhere.
All right, so let's jump right in with a classic business problem. This is something that everyone from McDonald's to your local university's athletic department has to ask themselves. And the question seems pretty simple, right? Should you cut the price of your product to get more customers in the door?
Well, the answer is anything but simple. Because that one decision, cutting the price, can lead to two completely different outcomes. In one scenario, your sales volume just explodes and your revenue skyrockets. Awesome. But in the other, yeah, if you sell a few more items, but it's not nearly enough to make up for that lower price, and your total revenue just plummets. Knowing which one of these is going to happen is, well, everything.
So, this is the real key, the crucial insight. Just knowing that sales will probably go up if you cut prices, that's not enough. That's the easy part. The real multi-million-dollar question is about the size of that reaction. It's all about how much more people will buy. And, to answer that how much question, economists have this really powerful tool, and it's called elasticity. That's all it is, really. At its heart, it's just a way to measure responsiveness, how much one thing changes when you go and tweak something else. Now, what's really helpful is to think about elasticity on a spectrum. It's not just a simple on or off switch. You've got products that are totally unresponsive to price changes and others that are incredibly sensitive. And this spectrum is how we categorize how different things behave out there in the real world. So let's look at the two absolute extremes. On one end, you have something that's perfectly inelastic. A classic example is life-saving insulin. Think about it. If the price goes up or down, a person with diabetes still needs the exact same amount to live. Demand is rigid. It doesn't stretch at all. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you have perfectly elastic goods. Imagine wheat from one single farmer. If that farmer tries to charge even a penny more than what everyone else is charging, what happens? Buyers just go to the next farm. Demand for their specific wheat drops to zero, just like that.
And we actually put a number on this. For a perfectly inelastic good, like that insulin, the elasticity is zero, a big, fat zero. There is literally no response in the quantity people buy when the price changes.
Now, if the value is somewhere between 0 and 1, we say the demand is inelastic. This means people do respond to a price change, but not very much. So maybe a 10% drop in price only leads to a little 2% increase in sales. It's a response, but it's pretty weak. Then you have our middle grounds, an elasticity of exactly 1. We call this unitary elasticity. This is where everything is perfectly balanced. The percentage change in how much people buy is exactly the same as the percentage change in price. A 10% price cut gets you a 10% boost in sales. Simple as that. And finally, if the value is greater than 1, we call demand elastic. This is where things get really interesting for sellers. It means demand is super responsive. A 10% price drop could lead to a whopping 20%, maybe even a 30% jump in sales. Okay, so all of this, the numbers, the spectrum, it all builds to the real-world application. This is the moment where the whole concept really clicks, and it's all about its direct link to your total revenue. This right here is the so what of elasticity. Okay, so here's the rule. Total revenue is just the price you charge times how much you sell, right? Simple. Now, if your product has elastic demand, where people are really sensitive to price, a price cut is going to lead to a proportionally massive increase in sales. That huge jump in quantity more than makes up for the lower price, and boom, your total revenue goes up. But if demand is inelastic, that same price cut only brings in a few new customers. It's not enough, and your total revenue actually goes down. So this is the rule of thumb you gotta remember. For elastic goods, price and total revenue move in opposite directions. You cut the price, revenue goes up. For inelastic goods, they move in the same direction. You cut the price, revenue goes down. I'm telling you, understanding this one simple relationship is the key to smart pricing. So this kind of begs the question, right? Why are some things elastic and others aren't? Why is the demand for a specific brand of soda so elastic, but the demand for, say, gasoline is so inelastic? Well, it's not random. It all comes down to a few key factors. It really boils down to 4 main things that determine just how stretchy a product's demand is. Let's break them down one by one.
Okay, the biggest one, by far, is the availability of substitutes. If customers have tons of other options, demand is going to be super elastic. Think about a specific brand of coffee. If its price goes up, you can just grab the one next to it, right? No big deal. But for something like gasoline, you don't have many immediate choices for your car. That makes demand really inelastic.
Another factor is something I like to call the importance of being unimportant. Basically, when something is just a tiny fraction of your budget, you're just less sensitive to its price. If a pack of mints at the checkout counter goes up by 10 cents, you probably wouldn't even notice or care. Its demand is inelastic because it's just not a big part of your spending.
Time. Time plays a huge role too. In the short run, your options are pretty limited. If gas prices spike tomorrow, you still have to drive to work. But over the long run, well, you can buy a more fuel-efficient car, maybe move closer to your job, or start using public transit. See, over time, people find ways to adjust, and that makes demand more elastic. Now, elasticity is such a cool and powerful idea that economists don't just use it for a product's own price. We can actually use the same concept to measure all sorts of other economic relationships and get a much deeper understanding of why people buy what they buy. For instance, there's income elasticity. This tells us how our shopping habits change when our income changes. You get a raise at work. What happens? Do you start buying more meals at nice restaurants? That's what we'd call a normal good. Or do you buy less instant ramen? That would be an inferior good. Income elasticity puts a number on that change. And cross-price elasticity is really fascinating. It shows us how two different goods are related to each other. So if the price of coffee goes up and you see people start buying more tea, well, those two are substitutes. Or if the price of cars goes down and people start buying more gasoline, those two are complements. This is absolutely critical for any business trying to figure out its competition. All right, let's pull all these ideas together and look at a real-world policy example. This shows why understanding elasticity isn't just for business owners. It matters for governments, for policymakers, and for all of us as citizens. Let's think about a government tax on cigarettes. Now, a policy like this usually has two big goals. First, they want to discourage smoking, which is a public health goal. And second, they want to raise tax revenue for the government. The thing is, the elasticity of demand for cigarettes creates this fundamental tension between those two goals. And this brings us to a final thought-provoking question. If the demand for cigarettes is highly inelastic, meaning smokers are addicted and won't really change their habits even if the price goes way up, then a big tax will raise a ton of money for the government, but it won't actually do much to stop people from smoking. On the flip side, if demand turns out to be pretty elastic, then the tax will be really effective at getting people to quit, but it won't bring in much revenue. So what's the primary goal? Is it public health or is it public funds? And that is the power of thinking with elasticity.